The Charlotte Podcast Festival is presented by Blumenthal Performing Arts, the Queen City Podcast Network, Eclecs Creative Agency, and WFAE, Charlotte's NPR news source, the home of acclaimed podcast Charlotte Talks, She Says, The List, Amplifier, Southbound, and FAQ City. Learn more about WFAE and our latest podcast, Work It, at WFAE.org.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Tom Gabbard, the president of Blumenthal Performing Arts, and along with WFAE, one of the sponsors of this festival. We've been really looking forward to this. You know, this niche of podcasts that blend with live performances is something that we've been working a lot in at Blumenthal. So I've really been looking forward to this particular session. And you know, this whole festival was intended to be live before COVID hit. And I just want to express my profound gratitude to the team who put this together, who didn't let this thing go away, who very smartly pivoted to put it online and not give up on launching this new festival. So thank you to Joni, Joe, and all of those people who've worked hard to bring this to us in its first incarnation. But in its next incarnation next year, I look forward to seeing a lot of you live right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for being here. Joe?
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Let's hear for Tom, Blumenthal Performing Arts. Yes, that's great. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and welcome to the Charlotte Podcast Festival, Week 3. We're here in Week 3. Thank you guys for being here. I'm your host. My name is Joe Hunsaker. I am an event manager of comedy programming at Blumenthal Performing Arts. I'm also a podcaster. My wife and I have a podcast. We do the American Timelines, true crime and history and pop culture. Also part of the Queen City Podcast Network. But we want to make sure everybody uses the hashtag CLT Podcast Fest this week to get up on social media and tell everybody all about it. We are now up to 13,000 subscribers here to the Charlotte Podcast Festival, brought to you by WFAE, Queen City Podcast Network, Blumenthal Performing Arts, and Eclecs Creative Agency. Buzzsprout did name us this week one of the, what is it, Joni? The top podcast festivals in the country already, and we're just in our third week. So thank you guys for being here. We couldn't have done it without all of you. I'm trying to admit people as I'm talking here. But anyway, welcome. This session is Transform Audio Productions into Live or Online Events. This session will help you learn how to create impactful, well-planned events, online or in person. Today, our guests are going to be Perrine DeShield, one of the co-creators of this festival and host and producer of First Gens and the Quarantine Couch podcasts. We'll also be joined by Karren and Rod Morrow of The Black Guy Who Tips. Everybody give it up for them. We're excited about those guys being here. This will be about an hour-long session, a little shorter because we have a 7 o'clock session we have to get off of this Zoom for so they can use it. The last 15 or so will be Q&A, maybe a little before that if we see some good questions in the chat. So if you have questions as we go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Thanks for doing that. This session will be recorded and made available as an archive session for those who have registered. It'll be sent out later this month via email, along with a short survey that we'd love for you to fill out to help us get better at this festival. Thank you guys for that, too. Be sure to check out the full list of sessions on the Charlotte Podcast Festival website, charlottepodcastfestival.com, and share about this session on social media, like I said before. Individuals can also purchase a t-shirt like this one, Charlotte Podcast Festival shirt from the website. It's very comfortable, and it helps support the festival, so please do that. Oh, and look, now I have my friends here. Please welcome Karren Morrow and Rod Morrow from the Black Guy Who Tips. The show has been mentioned in the Huffington Post, the Daily Beast, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, Bloomberg.com, Vox.com, BET.com, Ebony.com, NPR, Revolt TV, and Vice News Tonight on HBO. Over the years, the show has become a space of empathy, inclusion, progressiveness, while still maintaining wit and humor on a daily basis. Rod and Karren Morrow, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, how's everybody doing out there?
Oh, that was an amazing intro.
I know, right? I'm looking like, is that us?
Right,
You
we
guys
did
are
all
superheroes. Yes.
that.
Yes. And also welcome Perrine DeShield, the founder of Eclecs Creative Agency, co-host of First Gens and the Quarantine Couch. Perrine is a first-generation Liberian American and an avid podcaster. Perrine has created 2 shows, First Gens and the Quarantine Couch. She's taught workshops for podcasting. She was honored as one of the Charlotte Pride Magazine's Best of the Best 2019. She was nominated as a Best of Belk finalist in 2019 and named one of the top 30 under 30 future leaders of Charlotte by Elevate Lifestyle magazine in 2018. She is unbelievable, and she's a co-creator of this podcast festival, and I am honored to call her my friend, ladies and gentlemen, Perinda Shield.
Hello, happy to be here. Let's talk events and things.
Yes.
Podcast.
Yes, thank you, the 3 of you, for being here. I'm so excited about this, and myself, from being with Blumenthal Performing Arts, we have a lot of opinions on live podcasting and live events. And one thing we always try to keep in mind, and we'll jump right into this, is our whole job at a performing arts center is keeping an eye on the audience and putting ourselves in the shoes of the audience. What are they going to want? What is going to entertain them? And for podcasts, live podcasts, we like to think, what's different that this audience can get that everybody else in the world can't get at the same time? So we really prefer podcasts when they're live to do something different, give them something different than just anybody can just listen. So what kind of things do you add to your show? Is there an interactive portion? Do the people in the audience get to hear something that's not broadcast out there, or is it just a recording? Now, sometimes there will be just recordings, and that's kind of how they do. NPR Politics Live came, and their whole deal is that they just do their live events like that, and you can hear the audience a little bit. But on that one, maybe the thing that they added was the audience got to be part of the production. So they got to see, okay, cut, we're going to come out and re-say this line and redo that. So they were part of that, and their voices were part of it, and they asked them to do applause and things like that. But I wanted to ask you guys, with your live events, first jump right into whatever you guys want to. Tell us about your live events, and then tell us what do you offer that's different than just what we can listen to on your podcast?
Okay. Well, for us, it's interesting because online, every episode of our show is live.
Yes, it is.
So we have like a chat room, we get feedback, we play games, we do all this stuff, and it's just all virtuals. And it's different than when we get to do like a live show.
Yes.
Where people are in person, and we're playing the games, and they're, we try to make it a little bit different for the audience. Like, we'll include prizes with the games when we do it in person. Maybe put some microphones in the audience so people can participate, and we can get their their jokes and stuff like that. So I think when you're thinking about doing a live event in person versus a live event online is great practice.
Yes.
But in person is you want to make sure you're giving a special and a different experience for people, so that, partially so they want to come pay to see you live. So they'll be like, yes, it was different. It was fun. I had a great time. And if you weren't there, even if you hear it later, you're going to feel that feeling of like, I wish I was in that room.
Yes. And also, whenever you do it in person, just the interaction is different because we're always interactive anyway. So people that listen to us, it allows the fun that they have in their car, going back and forth to work or on the train. Now they can look me in my eye to see my facial expressions and hear my voice and sing along to the whatever songs we're singing. And it's like a big fun community.
Rod and Kate, for those who don't know, you guys don't edit your podcast. You don't upload it later. It's live streamed as it is. No changing, no editing, no censoring. Whatever you say is said.
Which is interesting because someone was asking us the other day. They were like, what do you do when you have like a guest on the show and they're like, can you take this episode down? I was like, I don't know. That has never happened. We've done 2,200 episodes and we've never had one where we were like, okay, that one's got to go. I don't know what we were thinking when we made that. So, I mean, it's a high wire act, but I think it's kind of like anything you do a lot. eventually you just kind of getting that repetition of it, and then you get better at it. We did have an episode that went missing where we just could not find the audio for that
We
episode.
don't know what happened to it.
It was from like 2011 or something.
Yeah, so we did a running joke where we actually re-recorded and covered all the topics of that day live for our audience. We didn't tell them, and they were like, what is happening here?
We re-recorded that this year.
Yes.
So trying to find articles from 10 years ago, and we didn't put the audience in on it. So we were just like, oh man, this new bill in Arizona that just passed is, man, I don't think this is good. And then there's like a lot of like Easter eggs of us being like, I don't think this is ever going to happen. Why would we ever elect someone from a reality show to be president? Come on, Karren. So,
That's great. That's great. That's so funny. Perrine, tell us about your live event you did at Spirit Square and what kind of things you had to think about that people might not think about in a live event.
Yeah, so like to Rod and Kay's point, right? So we do for First Gens a finale event every year. So we do like a season finale where we do games. We're African, so we have like a jollof war. So jollof rice is a big deal in West Africa. If you don't know, now you know. Liberian is the best. Fight me in the comments. But it is what it is. So, we have our Nigerian brothers and sisters, our Ghanaian brothers and sisters, our, friends from Sierra Leone and all of that good stuff. And we come together, we eat the jollof rice, and then we have the contest, whose jollof rice was better, right? So that's so much fun because what's so important about being, the child of immigrants with First Gens, food is so important, right? Like our culture we tell it through our food, and every culture is like that, right? So it's a big part of our events. We do a lot of stuff with food. We do games. We like to be engaging and interactive. And then we do panels and we ask people to submit questions for the future. But what we've also done outside of the box is kind of tapping into our market that may not know about us. So we actually did a campus tour called Put the Afri in African American. And we went to UNC Chapel Hill, my alma mater, and also North Carolina Central University. We went to Central and Chapel Hill, and we spoke to students from both their Black student movement or Black student union groups and their African organization groups. And we talked about bridging the gap between those groups. And that was amazing because there was a lot of passion. There was a lot of, demystifying stereotypes. There was just like a lot of really, really great conversation. So I encourage you all to get out on the road, get up and going. And even here in our backyard here in Charlotte, we worked with World Lit. So World Lit does this amazing, again, food festival, like food, music, cultural festival here in Charlotte. So last year they did their first ever festival in Camp North End, and they asked us to be a part of it. So naturally, I was like, what's something that all, cultures have in common? Spices, peppers. So we actually set up a pop-up called the Hot Spot. So people came, they tried different peppers from all around the world, and we had them record their reaction and tell us about their favorite food while their mouth was on fire. And it was great. It was fun. It was an amazing episode. I didn't eat the peppers, but I watched. We gave them water. It was great.
Perrine, you wanted me to tell you if your earring was a problem. It is a little bit. It's
okay.
A bit of a thing.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Sorry about
that's
that.
That's okay. Yeah,
I
put it in the chat, but I didn't think that's okay. No, it's great. That was great stuff, though. So one thing that just popped in my head with all of you guys, and Kay, when you said something about people get to see the look on your face now, that's a big difference. How often have people told you that you don't look the way you sound, like they pictured somebody different than you? Do you guys get that a lot?
We normally don't have that problem, and the biggest reason why is because we do such a long formatted show, so people consistently hear our voices. And then it's one of those things where it's a running joke about my height. I'm not tall, or a running joke about how people go, well, I didn't never think you had legs because I always see you from face up, jokes like that.
Yeah.
But as far as like the voice, no, at least I've never had it.
I get a little bit because I have a high pitched voice, and then people just associate high pitched voice with smaller people. So
yeah, they think you're a little guy.
Yeah, so it's always like it's always kind of weird, but I always say that my experience like online and with the podcast is kind of different than my experience in real life. Like if someone disagrees with me in real life, it's normally a pretty like amicable discussion. But then like online, you know, someone could be like, I'll beat you up. And you're just like, that's not going to happen.
Yes, that's fine. That's great. So what do you guys tell me guys about like what do you do pre-show and post-show for your events? Do you have a meet and greet? Do you do a party, or what kind of things do you guys do with that?
Perrine, you can go first if you want.
I'm sorry, Joe. I was like looking at our amazing chat. Can you ask the question one more time for me?
Oh yeah, I was saying if you saw a better question, I was going to say, what about pre-show and post-show? Do you do a meet and greet, or is yours just one big old party, or do you do, a special meet and greet separate? And do you do pre-show parties and post-show parties, picture taking events?
Yeah. So we kind of do like a kind of just like meet and greet we have in the past for our finale event. And then we kind of stay and do something kind of just mixing and mingling afterwards. Usually we'll kind of get there early and we'll let people know that we'll be there early if they want to do like any kind of, like pictures or just talk to us about the podcast. We're not as popular and as Rod and Kay, so we're not at meet and greet level yet, but it's fun. But sometimes like if it's not planned out, like we did when we first started out, which we didn't realize, how many attendees we're going to have and all of that, like, and we waited until the end. We were there for like a smooth extra hour. And like, again, when you're working and doing these live events, you're paying by the hour, friends. You're paying by the hour. So obviously, that like runs up. And so I think that planning beforehand is definitely way more beneficial, and making sure that you can pad in that time, because it's really important. You want to get to know your fans, your listeners, you want to connect with them. So that time's really vital.
I know for us, it was worth the investment to get an event planner. People underestimate the power of an event planner. Their purpose is to tell you the things that never crossed your mind and to prepare you for situations and scenarios that they have ran into that you have no idea what's happening. They could actually pick great venues for you, and because they almost speak on your behalf. So they simplify stuff. They call people in advance. They book appointments for you. So all you have to do is show up. I know for us, we had a meet and greet, and everything was kind of pre-planned, and we had like this banner that was behind us with our logo on it. We had a line where people took pictures, and it was really, really organized. And we did that kind of at the beginning, and we had like a time limit. We sat there the whole time. We did a time limit. We met and all that stuff. Now we didn't do anything afterwards, because a lot of times when you podcast, it takes a lot of energy too. People underestimate the energy that's kind of being zapped from you when you kind of pouring it out. So by the end of the show, we're both tired. So that's why we meet and greet ahead of time. So you won't have, like you were talking about, how the people at the end, you can just say, okay, you see me already. It's time for me to go home.
Yeah.
We've had it both ways too, because we've also done events where like we were on panels, or we did a live show in like another city or something. And we've had like, what happened was we would just end up hanging out. Like people would just come over and they would talk, and they would want to take pictures with us and stuff, because we didn't know that we needed a meet and greet. Like that wasn't we don't really have the ego for that, like to be like,
I was like, who wants to meet us?
You will need to pay extra to talk to me. Like that never crossed our minds. But our event planner, shout out to Jillian Smith, she was like, y'all gonna need like a meet and greet, y'all gonna probably need like an hour beforehand, and I'm gonna organize a line, and I'm gonna usher this thing in. And we did like make like a special tier of tickets for that, and it sold out so fast. We're just like, oh my god, like all these people want to meet us. And then I think we even like opened it up a little bit more, because it was like, I mean, because people were like online, like, I'm not gonna get to meet you. How did it sell out that fast? We're like, okay, well, here's some more, but I promise you, like, if we do too much of this, it's really gonna just be like inconsiderate at some point. We're really just gonna be shaking hands and being like, move, So so like that meet and greet thing was really important for us. and having it organized by someone else who can kind of be the person that moves the line along, gets pictures ready, gets people's phones out and stuff. If you're doing a live event and you can get that done, I suggest you do it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think a lot of podcasts that we see come through don't even think about that. It's just the two people on the podcast, and they're asking me, this guy over here, hey, can you take pictures for us? And it's everybody's got things to do. So having somebody like that. Where did you find your event planner?
I believe we asked a fan or something, and someone put us in touch with Jillian. I think it was like One Touch Events, and she was like out of Atlanta, and she was like super organized.
Yes.
And even though we did the show in Charlotte, she's just like communicating back and forth, and she's coming up with these ideas. She's like, do y'all know what a stanchion is? And we're like, no.
Yeah.
Like she was like, y'all got to get this thing, and like some of that stuff we still have here at the house. So anytime we do an event, we could technically just bust it back out.
Yes.
And it's something we would have literally never thought of.
Yeah, there's so many things you have to think about. Stanchions, you have to think about step and repeats, what people want their picture taken in front of. You got to think about insurance. You got to think about, you got to get an estimate from whatever venue you're going to see what they're going to charge you. You need to know who they're going to have on it. Sometimes it's just knowing the questions to ask, and that not everybody knows how to do that. So
we would not have thought of the Blumenthal Center for Performing Arts because it literally did not cross our minds that we could be in this venue.
Right. We thought that was kind of out of our price range, actually. You know,
not just that, but like it's associated with like the Lion King.
Yes,
coming to town.
the Hamilton coming to town. I was like, what business we got up in there?
Right. So
you guys are up there. You've made it. But that's the thing. A lot of people might not know. Those of who you are in Charlotte, Blumenthal has 6 theaters. So we have black boxes. We have 150 seat theaters, 200. So it's supposed to be for everybody. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So that's good. I'm glad you segued into that, so I can just kind of give a little plug for Blumenthal Performing Arts. We have a question from Landis Wade. Can you guys talk about the challenges of audio gear for a larger event like this and the differences between the vibe for a live event and a more intimate podcast, and the why and how of doing a live event can help raise awareness for a regular podcast? So I know that's a lot. So the equipment, and then just like the differences, and then how it can help promote your podcast.
Okay. Well, for equipment stuff, once again, shout out to event planners and shout out to the Blumenthal Center for Performing Arts.
They was on top of it.
They had everything, like
anything you could imagine.
All we really needed to do was plug up the laptop and let them know what kind of connections we needed. They had every type of wire and stuff.
It's like, you can dream it. We got something for it.
I mostly suggest working with like professionals or people that have done it before, so they can adjust to you and they can communicate like, this is what you're going to need exactly. So that was a big thing for us. As far as equipment, like the main thing I would suggest, have a backup recorder. Okay. So we have like a portable recorder, and we can like hook it up and record with that. And then we also had the laptop. When we did our first like live event for ourselves, the laptop like halfway through was like, boom, I'm done. I'm taking the rest of the day off or whatever. And so there's part of that recording like missing because of that, because I didn't realize, oh wait, we should hook up the portable one. You know, you live and you learn, obviously, but now I know, like, okay, we'll have 2 things going at the same time. So equipment, that's the one thing I would recommend that you don't have for the more like your online live shows. And then I think the last thing you asked was the vibe difference. And I mean, you should allow some room for the crowd. That was the thing we learned, because like the first time we did our show live was in DC, and we went to go do the segments. And when everyone started singing along, we were like, what is this
happening here? It was very different. And I remember the very first time we interacted with our audience was at AwesomeCon in DC. We were invited by a friend of ours, and this is like our first time we actually, because you see numbers and stats and statistics, but you don't realize those are real people. And until you see those numbers look you in the eye, it's very different. And I remember when we had went on stage, they was like, this is, you know, they was going down the line, and we were last. And they was like, Rod and Karen from the black guy who tipped, and the audience just was like, yay! woo. I was looking at Roger like, are they here for us? Are you serious? Like, what is happening here? It's a very different experience. But for them, they're just excited to see you. And it's for me, I just feel like I'm a normal person, but when your fans don't consider you a normal person.
Yeah, that's cool.
I want to chime in really quick about just like equipment and whatnot for events and just like my background or just like my experience. So I haven't worked with an event planner just because I kind of have an event planning background. So I've done events like for, like my 9-to-5 full-time job. But I've definitely seen like a huge benefit in just having a support system and a team with you day of. So making sure that you have, whether it's friends or family that can volunteer, you have someone taking the tickets, you have someone working food, you have someone just assisting and with like the flow of it, right? So making sure you make an agenda, an itinerary of the flow of the entire day, right? Making sure that you're speaking and communicating with the vendor, the event vendor, right? So those, wherever you're doing your event, whatever space it's in, making sure that you have early communication, one, when you're scheduling and you're booking that space, that you have time on the front and the back end, right? You wanna have enough time to actually come in, load in your equipment, test things out. Honestly, you wanna walk the space also before you even book the space. You wanna make sure it's a good fit, a good vibe for you, for your podcast, right? So we've worked with Camp North End, we've worked with the Blumenthal and Spirit Square, we've had events, in different places on campuses. So again, it just matters to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into before you step foot in that space, okay? So again, if you don't have the means for an event planner, just try to make sure that you're thinking about all of the details and keeping in mind that if it's your podcast and you're planning the event, that you're not running around while you need to be on the mic, okay?
Right.
So as far as equipment is concerned, in that space, you want to always make sure that your venue has a PA system, right? You want to make sure that they have a way that you can either amplify your sound or you can connect your recorder, and that you also have a long XLR cord, okay? You want to make sure that your cord is long enough because if you have a portable recorder, but you're on a stage or you have a guest who's sitting in a chair far away, how are they going to be able to get the mic, right? And actually record that sound. So making sure that one, if you do not have a portable recorder, making sure you can either rent one or you have access to one, but also making sure that your cords are long enough to actually reach, both your mouth and your face and your guest. So keep all of that in mind, like with all the different events and stuff that you plan, because again, you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind all of those small details.
And I just wanted to piggyback on what Perrine said, because especially walking the venue, super important. Like for us, because the day of trying to figure out like what floor am I going to, what's the back entrance to the stage, and all that stuff. How you don't want to be figuring that out on the day of. And also we walked several other venues before we got to Blumenthal. I was like, okay, this is the one.
Yeah, it's like you would know that spot, because I'm not gonna lie, we hit that stage and I was like, I could literally visualize the audience there. So I was like, oh, I can see them in front of my face. This is where we need to be. And something also important is, which I know me and Roger didn't even think about, and something our event planner says, be sure your venue is ADA compliance. ADA compliance. My bad. Make sure it's compliant, because a lot of times you get venues and they might not be up to code, and you're going to have people coming in from all walks of life and things like that. So you want to be sure that you can accommodate everybody.
And then the last thing I was going to add to, look at the other shows and events that have happened at the venue. That can give you a gauge on what you might want to do in that venue. Right. And if someone has done that and done it successfully before, so you can go, oh, this podcast was there 2 weeks ago. They, their show went off well. I think I can do something similar.
They have the means to support you, right? And they have the means to support, your audio
Right.
event. Also, if you want to serve alcohol, make sure that you are compliant with whatever their licensing and their guidelines are. Again, if you want to bring in outside food, make sure that that's something you can do, or if you have to work with one of their vendors. So there's a lot of little things that you want to make sure that you cross off and you're confirmed and approved way before your event even takes place. So it's just super duper important.
Yes, this is so perfect because with the three of you here, we have a perfect mix of people that can use different venues, and you guys both use Blumenthal, and that kind of shows off that we have different sizes. But Perrine used an art gallery that we have that we rent out for events, and a lot of people wouldn't even think of that. So, but with that territory comes other, like Perrine has to think of other things. So she had to think of all this equipment and stuff, where Rod and Karren had a theater that usually has those kind of things, but they still have to check on all that. But this is a perfect segue because we have different sizes of podcasts. Everybody's at a different spot in their podcast and in their success levels. Somebody asked, how do you know when you have enough of an audience to have a live event?
So for us, I think it was like a money thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much money am I willing to risk to invest in myself and then find out? We kind of had some like clues, right? So the biggest clues were we did panels in other cities. And people were showing up in these other cities. We did not know this would happen. So, when we're like at AwesomeCon and we're looking out in the audience and we're like, these people aren't here for Ninja Turtles. These people are here for us.
Yes, they're not in costumes.
Like this is like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe we're on to something. And then, your fans tell you, like our fans were like, y'all should just do a live show here or whatever. We're like,
they've been asking.
Okay, well, maybe, like enough of you said it. Like you do seem to be the type that would show up. And so that was one thing. Then we did like a live show where we had like us and two other podcasts. We called it Negro Con. It was like cool. It was super black. It was in DC, Chocolate City. And we sold it out so fast.
We sold it out in
less than like 2 days.
Yes.
Like we were just like we were thinking like, oh man, we can promote this over the next month and we'll get it. And it was just like Monday came and it was like, there are no tickets. What happened to the tickets? We're like, I don't know. We did not expect y'all to do that. So those were the clues for us that, okay, we can do something bigger. We can do something like put on by ourselves, invested in ourselves. And that was how we did it. But we've like looking back in hindsight, I wish we would have started earlier and smaller. Like we waited about 4 or 5 years in, but we probably could have been doing local stuff in Charlotte at different venues and getting known to around here as a Charlotte podcast. But we literally, it just never crossed our minds.
Like that was part of, I'm sorry, but that was part of Lannis's question too, is like, how would, if you had done it differently, like Perrine's doing, she's doing local shows. How do you guys feel like that helps your podcast?
I think, well, Perrine, I mean, listen, it's one of the reasons she's one of the top 30 under 30 in Charlotte.
That's why
because she's already ahead of us. Okay. We were
the old funny duddies over here.
Get out of here.
Like we never even like, because of the idea of a podcast being a thing that is digital,
right?
We never really thought about the local part of it. Like, how do you get known in your community,
right?
And also because we had like we had the 9-to-5 jobs. Podcasting was considered kind of a weird thing when we started it.
Yes.
And so it was just like like this. No one's gonna be into this, like that was our minds. And now I think it's so normalized. I'd say start small, start early, and it's okay to take a loss, take a calculated loss on your audience. Like, hey, if it's going to cost us maybe say $500 to do this live thing, go ahead and do that and risk the $500. Maybe you'll make it back and you have a wonderful surprise. Maybe you'll break even, or maybe you just lose a little bit of $500 and you go, hey, at least I was able to gauge where my audience is.
Yeah. Perrine looks like she's having some technical switch over.
No
Maybe
problem.
she's going to change her earrings again. But so Mitzi asked, as you guys mentioned, somebody asked you, what is a stanchion? You guys want to tell them what a stanchion is?
I broke it down for her already.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And I answered her question. But I want to piggyback off of what Rod and Kay just mentioned. I had to charge my laptop. But really, really quick. So just like the importance of starting small and starting local, and also just gauging your audience, it's so important, right? So I love how Rod and Kay were able to give the people what they wanted, right? They're like, yeah, we'll come to a show. But what was really important and key with what they mentioned is that they started and did panels, right? When you're doing a panel, you're bringing in people from other audiences to talk about a subject matter that you have in common, right? So that's so important with events, okay? So if you're trying to gauge and see if people are going to show up for an event, pull in somebody you know people gonna show up for, and someone who is, again, along the same subject matter that you're presenting and that you're doing. So collaborating. It's so important. It's so vital. It's another means of cross-promoting and marketing your podcast and your event. But then also just the basics of like selling tickets on like Eventbrite, right? Selling tickets for your event and marketing your event in advance, right? So start at least 3 to 4 weeks out, right? If you can start 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out, even better. Start putting teasers, fillers out there. Try to get early bird tickets, right? Start with a lower price point, right? And then let that price point go up the sooner you get to the event, right? That's how you'll be able to gauge and see people's interest. And then you take note to the stats and what you're seeing, and then you go from there, right? So don't underestimate your listeners, don't underestimate your supporters, and always collaborate and promote community as much as you can.
Yeah, I think the key about collaborating too is really big, because let's say you don't think you have the audience to support a live event right away. Maybe if you kind of do 2 and 3 other people, you're like, hey, we all have an audience. Maybe we bring them together and then we have enough people. So, collaborate.
When you say collaborate, somebody asked, do podcasts, live podcast events have openers? Can I have a band to start it out? Can I have a comedian?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
We had a
collaboration you want. You can.
We had a comedian. We had a comedian friend of the show, Chris Lambert, come down, and he did like 20 to 30 minutes opening for us before we did our show. That was just literally something me and Karen had always dreamed of. Like, yo, it'd be nice. Awesome. Chris is a great guy. He's very funny. He's blowing up. Let's have him come down. Let's have him do like a set for the audience. And like that for us, that was how we wanted. You might want music. You might want
a band.
Yeah, you might want people out there juggling it. Whatever, it's your event. Make it yourself. Make it your own.
We had an art show, right? So when we did it in that gallery in Spirit Square, we invited local artists to actually present art pieces on our subject matter. So our season was about colorism, global colorism, and each of our artists created pieces that pertain to that. So again, it's like getting creative with it, you know what I mean? And working again with your community and really just paying attention to the world around you. It's super duper just like vital. So
yeah, then you have more people that are vested in your event that want to tell other people. That's great. Yeah, just like cross promotion. Somebody mentioned earlier about how do you go about getting in conventions? Like you guys found out at conventions that you were popular. How do you even go about getting in a convention?
So for us, we've been invited. I think pretty much every time.
Yeah, we've been invited.
Yeah, I think one time we had to apply for a convention, but we ended up not going to that one. But yeah, for us, it's just been people inviting us. And we also had one where our friends were already going to apply to be in the panel.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, y'all should come up and be on it too. And we were like, oh, sure. We'll do that. Look, we have been very fortunate. Okay. like looking back, it's just like, oh man, we didn't even plan that and it worked out. But I think now with podcasting not being this weird thing people do in their basement, you can be more forth thinking than me and Karen were. So you can be like, I'm going to apply for this con. I want to do this. I want to have a panel here. And a lot of times the application process is easy. The biggest thing is just getting approved. And once you get approved, then it's promoting it and getting your audience there, because the panels do have spaces that they want and need to fill. And so, unless it's like cost prohibitive or something like that, I would suggest, doing as many panels as you can.
So just apply to conventions.
Yeah. I mean, if that's your thing, I'm not even a con person. That's what's so funny is like, like we have Heroes Con here, and I'm an introvert. I just get like 15 minutes, and I'm like, we should probably go home. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah,
He's like, no.
But being a panelist in a con is totally different.
Yes, it is.
It is good. Okay, so we're getting lots of questions. So in interest of time, I want to get everything done. We got to get off here a little bit before so we can the 7 o'clock can start. So let's talk about live streaming events, like online, since we're in the COVID and we're not doing live events really right now. What about somebody's asking about Crowdcast? Do you just use Zoom? Some people are saying don't use Zoom, use YouTube Live, Facebook Live. There's all these things. What do you guys like the best? What do you have the most success with?
I would say use whatever you feel fit, but for us, we use Crowdcast because it accommodates our needs, because we actually want an interactive audience. So for us, Crowdcast fits that, and they can see us. It has a running chat down the side. We can like play games with them.
We can have guests.
We can have guests on. We can do videos and things in the background so everybody can see it. And the thing about Crowdcast is that they do things that we can't do. They have an app that's under their control, so people can actually watch through their app. And so that's what I kind of like about it. Get a platform that's kind of already established and can do these multiple things without you having to take the extra effort to find out how to do it yourself or be an IT wizard.
Well, also, like we pay for that service.
Yes.
So like you kind of get what you pay for sometimes.
Agreed.
Sometimes with the free services, unless they have like a pay option, a lot of times you can run into certain things like there's harassment on YouTube that you might not want to deal with, especially as a person of color. It's a little bit different reality for us where it's like, oh man, I don't want this guy in my in my chat while I'm trying to talk about whatever event. So like there's stuff like that you have to think of. And then the other thing too is be flexible, right? You're only as good as your tool. So how well you learn the tool. You can actually make anything work, right?
Yes.
So Zoom can work for you. It's not Zoom. There are people who are doing Zooms and they're making it great and they do it every day and it's like flawless. We've been in some where you're just like, oh my God, y'all have freaked this Zoom. Y'all got a DJ up in here. What is happening? and we've, and the same thing, like whether it's Crowdcast, whether it's YouTube, whatever, it's really how much time and effort you want to put into perfecting the product that you want. But you can make that thing work. We've had Spreecast, Vocal.
Some of these places ain't even around no more.
Yeah. I can't even think of some because they don't exist. They don't exist. But we had to be flexible and go, okay, now is our time to leave this platform for a new one.
Awesome. Do you guys know of any examples of podcasts using Twitch?
Yeah, For All Nerds uses Twitch. They're a great podcast. So listen, if it exists and you can do it, somebody using it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now they make it easier. Now they have platforms where I could stream on one and it automatically goes to YouTube, automatically goes to Facebook. So they are actually simplifying a lot of things.
StreamYard. People use Facebook, man. Listen. I'm telling you, Instagram, people have been doing podcasts on Instagram. Yeah. Even if you think it doesn't make sense, somebody has figured that thing out. So maybe find who's doing it, ask them some questions, and they can tell you how to get it done.
Yes.
Don't sleep on IGTV. Don't sleep on it.
Come on.
Oh yeah, definitely don't. What are some key elements to make a live podcast that's virtual or in person successful? Like what? I guess we talked about some of those things for yourself, but like. Somebody asked that.
I think to make it successful, you would want to add something to it. Like what we've done, since we can't be seen in person right now. Everyone don't want to get COVID. I know we do stuff like we do giveaways on our show sometimes. Like we played like what is the name of the game we played? It's some kind of a card game about being black. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like trivia for black people. And so like we played that, and we do giveaways. Like, hey, you can get a code for a Crash Bandicoot, or you can get we're gonna give away some of our we got some Blu-rays for Last King of Staten Island or King of Staten Island or something. So like trying to make it fun and interactive with the audience. I think now that we can't be seen in person, now you do have to go to the post office and mail it, but it's worth it, I think.
Yeah, people love prizes. And as the performing arts venue guy, I would say one thing, as you guys talked about early on, about that, get together with somebody and walk the space. One thing Perrine did was awesome, was gave us a schedule of the day, her load in time, load out time. The more you have that stuff down and to a T, the more accurate your estimate's going to be, the more we can plan as a venue to serve you and be there for you, and be on time. Because most venues, if you say you're going to be here at 10 o'clock, show up to 11, you're getting charged from 10 to 11. So those are things that I don't know people think about when you're new to live events. You don't think of stuff like that. That's great. Let's see.
I know when we with Blumenthal, we had to like, I think you can get like almost all day, but there's stuff we had to bring from home hours and hours before any person got there.
Yeah, like it was literally our whole day. Like we had to get there like hours before the plan and prep and things I didn't even think about, makeup and hair and all, that type of stuff. And people don't actually think about that stuff until, what are you going to wear? Do I need to bring a separate pair of clothes? Like,
like security, your guest list, who's allowed to come backstage.
Yeah, you definitely want to think of the product from what a fan would see, and you definitely want them to have that experience first and foremost, like what would make this a dope show. But you better be thinking about yourself from your perspective. Like Perrine said, you show up and you don't got no family, no friends, no staff, and now you the one that's got to plug up the laptop, and also you got to go set up the step and repeat. Dog, you don't have time for all that.
No, you don't. And because we're accustomed, me and Roger are accustomed of doing a lot of things ourselves, our event planner had to tell me to go somewhere and sit down because I'm a doer. Like, I'm like, you need help? Can I help? She was like, no. You need to go sit down and get your thoughts together and, plan on your day. She was like, the fans are getting ready to come. You need to. So she had to tell me to calm down.
Yeah. Perrine, I met your whole family. I think you had everybody helping, and everybody were great.
Came through.
That was great.
It's important to just stay engaged, though. Like as far as that question about a successful event, right? It's just important to stay engaged with your audience and with who's there, right? So read the room, right? I think that's one of the biggest quotes of 2020. Read the room. That applies to live events. That applies to any kind of event, right? So make sure you're vibing off of the vibe that you're receiving, making sure that you're keeping the energy up, making sure that you're hearing from your audience, giving them a time on the mic to ask a question and whatnot. And even pre doing that expected audience, right? Gauging them and figuring out what they would want to see, like don't be afraid of surveys and getting feedback. Use that and apply that to your actual event in your live situation.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll end this up with you guys telling us what your most memorable live event was. I'm going to quickly answer Jay's question. He had something about, what are the deals? What kind of do you do a door deal? Do you get a percentage, whatever? And it's really whatever you want to do. You have to do the research on your own. Like you have to guess how many people are going to come. You have to figure out what a good price is. I would look at other podcasts that are maybe comparable to yours. Try cheap at the beginning, but at the beginning you're going to be renting. Like nobody's going to just give you $10,000 to do your thing. So you got to rent, and then you got to figure out what your costs are. So it all depends on what you're going to do, what you want to do. And then Jay was asking about how do we network with other podcasters, and you've got it. You're here. This is it. The Charlotte Podcast Festival. There's a happy hour on Friday. Sign up for that. It's a great way to network. But guys, really quick, what's your most memorable event? Then we got to get out of here. Perrine, you want to start? I'm sorry. I didn't know if Karren, we were about to say something.
Go ahead, Kay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kay.
For me, I think the most memorable event would have to be Awesome Con. And the reason why that one was because that was like the first time we actually seen the audience and interacted with the audience and seeing the expressions on their faces. And I think the thing that stuck out the most was after we had walked off the stage, a fan came and she was like, "Can you sign this for me?" And I said yes. And then they asked, "Well, you're going to is there a fee?" And I was like, "Why would we charge?" And then like immediately behind her was a line, and we were there so long that they was like, "Hey, we got to fold the chairs up. Y'all got to leave." So we actually went outside, and when we walked outside, it was like a crowd of people waiting for us. So after that, it became like a photo shoot. So you're like, people are saying, "I love you so much. You changed my life." And it's like, okay. So you're trying to like not to cry and ruin their photos while they're telling you these heartwarming stories, while you have like 30 people in front of you, like the paparazzi. And I was like, what's going here? Because our friend actually set us up, because he was like, "I invited y'all because I knew they were going to come." He was like, that y'all are the stars of the show. And he moonwalked his way out the room and left us stranded.
Yeah, my cheeks were cramping up from like smiling so much.
So that was the most memorable time.
For mine, it was probably, we went to Miami and we were part of a podcast panel for RevoltCon.
Yes.
And Revolt TV is like Puff Daddy's TV network.
Okay.
And we were up there with like Combat Jack and man, what's her name? Noriega from the Drink Champs. He came in drunk, and halfway through, he came in late and drunk, and he came in through the crowd and had a microphone and interrupted the whole panel.
It was
and went on this hilarious drunk rant. Taxstone was there. He's in prison now. He was there, and like it was just so dope because it was like podcast and royalty people on the stage, but at the same time, what I really liked about it was that we had these people that were like titans in this industry, and they're like, yeah, you know, when you get like 10,000 listeners, that's when you can finally do this. So you need 100,000 downloads a week, and then you can do this. And then they would get to me and Karren, and I'd just be like, yeah, so like, you know, I think when we had like 500, we were like, let's start with like PayPal, and then we'll like figure something out from there. And then when we had this, like, you know, and they're like, you know, you got to get like these big name guests, and we're just like, it's just me and Karren. We're in the spare bedroom. We have, you know, regular jobs. We're kind of doing this part-time. So like, I really just enjoyed being like, you know, we're the little podcast that could, and also you can too.
Yes.
So really quickly, we're short on time. So my favorite podcast memory was, I don't know if you heard me earlier because my earrings were making like really loud sounds, and I hope that you can hear me, but the hotspot. So we did a pop-up shop not a pop-up shop, but a pop-up podcast during World Lit Street Food Music Cultural Festival. So that was so much fun. People were eating peppers, their mouths were on fire, but they were still talking through the pain, telling us about their favorite foods, their favorite meals. And it was just a really cool kind of off the cuff moment. It was a cool situation where we were able to get new listeners and new supporters from a really cool festival that, again, had a similar interest as ours. So
that's
great.
Always
cool. I do have one question for Perrine before we leave, if it's possible.
Really quick, Rod. Really quick. We gotta get out of here.
All right. Where do we get the best jollof in Charlotte? Because I don't know. I've never had it.
Zoe's is going to be your number one. ZOEWEE. Apostrophe S.
Yes, with that, that's all we have time for. Thank you guys for doing this. You guys are really awesome. This was a great panel. I would say just do it, everybody. Just try to do it. I mean, do it small, do it big, whatever you do. Just try it, because you did that with your podcast, right? So try a live event. Do as much as you can. Try, because you'll learn from that. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for signing up for the Charlotte Podcast Festival, and we will see you very soon. Don't forget to check out the website for more sessions. Good night, everybody. Thanks all for being here.
Rod,
Thanks,
my
Tom
mama
Gabbard.
will make you jollof rice.
What? Okay.
Right.
Email me.
That's
okay.
the best. Okay, I got you.
You guys save it for the happy hour, would you?